Hi there! I'm back! How are you? It is Friday, January 17th, I think? 2020, just in case. I know it's probably written down there, but I'm just saying. My name is Milan. Sorry, flaky. And I am Mimimustknit, and I'm coming to you from just outside of a small town called Cornwall, the city of Cornwall, 45 minutes away from Ottawa and pretty close to the US border. It's really, really cold out today, which is why I'm wearing my whole like woolly getup. It's like minus 30 degrees Celsius. I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit. It's just cold. So I am making this video when I don't know if you've watched any of my other episodes, but in my last episode I mentioned that I wanted to do a review of my Make 9 from 2019. I've been doing it the last 2 years and I've planned my Make 9 for 2020. In 2018 I only didn't make one knit, and that was the dotted race shawl, and it was started and it was well underway, and then I realized I hated the colors together. They looked really good on my shelf. They're like up here somewhere. They looked really good on my shelf, but they looked horrible in the shawl together. So I ripped it out, and if I get back to it someday, maybe. We'll see. So I'm going to start with what I'm wearing, and then I'll move on to my Make 9s for 2019. So this is the Coquihalla hat, and it is a Knox Mountain Knit Company pattern. And I've made it out of my hand-dyed, just fingering yarn. Love these twisted ribs. I love this zigzag stitch in the twisted rib. I am not a huge fan of the head nipple, but you know, it's the style these days. I'm not really into it, but I don't know. It's cute. I just like the rest of the hat. I don't like this part. Sometimes I'll fold it down and just wear it more as a slouch, but whatever. It does what it does. And then this is my portfolio scarf. I've talked about this in my Vlogmas because I wear this enough. It's a pattern by Erica Flory, and it's made of Loops Studio Plus worsted weight yarn. I bought this yarn at Loops in Philadelphia, and this must be a pattern that is written in-house. I've made it a lot. Sometimes I put the lace panel in, and sometimes I don't. I just really like the shape and asymmetrical, whatever. I like the shape. I make it all the time, just because I like it. So and this is my Fern and Feather sweater by Jennifer Steingass. There we go. Look at my boobs. And that is made of the Belfast Mini Mills Island Collection merino wool, and it's a worsted weight. And I love this sweater. I wear it all the time. I'm also making another sweater. I got this yarn in PEI when I went in October of 2018. And then this year, in 2019, I ended up getting a thinner weight of this, I think it's the same yarn, and I'm making another Jennifer Steingass pattern, the Altheta. So I'll show you guys that in the next episode. Now we can dive into the Make 9. So what I did last, well, be like, you know, Christmas time-ish, 2018, I took all my stash out. And I went through a bunch of stuff. I have like 3 or 4 bins of yarn that I don't plan to use. I may use it to make projects to donate. Anyway, so all the yarn in the bins, I will probably make things to donate or make things for gifts. When people ask me to make them stuff, I kind of go through my stash, but I'll go through the things that I wanted to give away or the yarn that I wanted to get rid of, and use that to make gifts or charity knits. So I laid everything out and I picked out the patterns to match the yarn that I already had. There was a couple patterns, you know, with the exception of I think 2 sweaters that I had to buy yarn for. Everything else I had in my stash already. So what I did is, you see all these project bags here. So I have 2, I have this one and this one. So these are all ready to go, and they're matched yarn and pattern, so that I had an excuse to keep these skeins of yarn, because I have a lot. I have a lot of yarn. These are kind of full of leftovers. This one has project bags in it. There's one down here that has some fabric. Okay, I'm getting off course here. I laid everything out. I made plans for all the projects, and all of my make 9s, with the exception of 2, were using yarn I already had. So that was kind of the most important thing. I really wanted to stash bust. There's a cube up here that has a lot of fingering weight yarn, so there's this one there, but this one is actually starting to have a dent in it. Like, I'm seeing the back of the cubby, so that's awesome. So I'm going to start now with my, it wasn't my first finished object of 2019, but it was the first one on my list. So it is the Turtle Dove pattern, and it's a pattern by Espace Tricot. I think it's Lisa that designed this. So it's kind of got like the bat sleeves. It's a bit tough when you wear it under a coat, because then the sleeves get all bunchy, but whatever. I'm not wearing a coat inside, so here's the sweater. The first time I knit this sweater, it was enormous. I don't know why I don't know if I imagined I was way bigger than I was, but this thing was literally a tent when I put it on. So I ripped it all back and I started over, and I ended up using something like 3 or 4 skeins less than I had planned. So I made it a little bit shorter, and then I didn't do the split hem. I did the just a plain hem. The split hem didn't look good on me. I don't know. And then I made the neck less turtlenecky. And I added a little bit of short rows, because the first time when I put it on, the first version of this sweater, when I put it on, it was poochy right here. Like, it bunched up a little bit. So I tried to put in a couple extra short rows to make it do that less, but it didn't really work. But that's okay. I still like it, and it's still super soft. And this is made out of Woolfolk Luft. So not cheap yarn, but I just really wanted this sweater in this yarn because of all the photos I'd seen. It just didn't look the same in a different yarn. So I splurged and I got this. And I love it. And it's so soft. Like, I don't know if you guys can see this halo, but it's amazeballs. I love this yarn. I ended up making, I had enough left over to make a hat. Probably 2 hats. And a full skein that my friend Louise ended up buying for me. So my next project is the Ingle sweater by Caitlin Hunter. And I used Rauma Phenol PT2. So I'm reading this out of my notebook. Sorry for looking down. The yarn is not the softest. It's not next to skin. I could wear it next to my skin because it's not like prickly, but it's definitely not the Luft. This part's soft because it's got some silk mohair in there. So I think those 2 projects are the only 2 that I ended up purchasing yarn for. I think I made this sweater a little bit shorter than the pattern called for, and the sleeves. I'm not a huge fan of these poofy sleeves, but whatever, it works. I love this sweater and I wear it. And I like the color. It's not, I usually go for black, gray, brown. It's kind of my go-to palette. What else did I change on this? Oh yeah. So between these, I don't know what they're, snowflakes or leaves or something. You've got the eyelets up here, but there were eyelets in here. And you could see the floats, and it drove me bonkers So I was done, I was like down here by the time I decided to rip it all out. I couldn't live with it. I would have never worn it because those little carries would have driven me insane. So that was pretty much the only modifications I made. Shorter body and no eyelets between the snowflakes / leaves. So that's project number 2. The next one is the Sweet November. I'm trying to see. I'm going to show it to you the right side. This is the Sweet November shawl. So it's based on a movie, Sweet November, with Charlize Theron. And it is knit out of some of my hand-dyed fingering. So this color reminds me of sort of the Northern Lights, but like the darker green purple versions, not the orangey yellow ones. And I wear this thing a lot. The fringes are starting to look a little tired. And I think the original version is knit in a DK, but I had fingering to use, so I used it. My next project is the Whizbee mittens, and this is a pattern by Sophia Camerborn, and I modified them, but they're made out of let lopi that I bought in Iceland when I was there a few years ago. We went to the lopi factory and I bought sweaters quantity, and that sweater I made probably as soon as I came back. And I'm trying to think of how many years ago I went to Iceland. Between 5 and 7, let's say. And the lopi factory was cool. Well, we just ended up going to the store. We couldn't visit the factory because it was a little bit late in the day and they had closed already. But I bought a sweaters quantity, gray, black, and white, and made an Icelandic sweater, which is now too small because I'm bigger. So my sister has temporary custody of that sweater. A funny story about that one. So you knit the body from the bottom up. It's kind of like an old school, right? You knit the body, then you knit the sleeves, and then you attach the sleeves on the body. But I attached one of the sleeves backwards so you could see all the decreases, or in this case the increases, because it's knit from the top up. And I only noticed this after I had done the whole yoke and the neck, and I was cursing. I couldn't believe I had done that. So I literally cut the sleeve out, turned it around, and grafted back on. That was my first experience with cutting it into my knitting, but it worked. It's a beautiful sweater that my sister is wearing right now. So back to the mittens, the Whizbee mittens. I ended up having to go up like 3 or 4 needle sizes for these because it looked like they were made for Barbies at the recommended needle size. And I'm usually pretty close. Like my gauge it's not tight, it's not loose, I don't know. It is what it is. But I ended up going up a lot of needle sizes for these and I was surprised. The only thing I modified is this was different in the pattern and it obviously didn't have this extra cuff. I just like having my mittens a little bit longer. So these turned out really fun. I loved making them. The thumb is so cute. So these are the Whizbee mittens. Let's see what's next. Next is my Sipala. Oh, sorry, it's like a big pile on the floor. So this one I just finished. I literally finished it. Well, I finished it before New Year's 2020, but I blocked it like last week. Early last week, late the week before, something like that. And I literally wore it the next day because it was dry. I blocked it at night. And the next morning I went to check it and it was dry. So I literally ripped off this sweater and put this one on. So this is another Caitlin Hunter pattern. It's the Sipala and it's made out of my hand-dyed fingering weight. I think I made it a little bit shorter, but it ended up growing and I love the size of this sweater. I ended up going a little bit bigger than, my bust is like a 35. I probably could have done a 36 inch, but I ended up going up an extra size and I love the way this fits. It's like loose, like a big old cozy sweatshirt. And then I omitted some of these little dots, circles, because I was afraid to run out of the gray because I only had one skein of the gray. So I think they went up to maybe up here. So I omitted those and love it. It's a bit tight on here, but it's not tight enough that I can't, it's not so tight that I can't wear it. So I love this sweater. I think that's, oh no, I have one more sweater. I didn't think I'd knit that many sweaters last year, but apparently I did. Okay, so that was a Cipula. Where are my socks? I've lost the socks. Stand by. I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. Oh. My notebook. Okay, so the next project that was on my list for 2019 was the blueberry waffle socks. And these, everybody and their aunt and uncle and dog's uncle was knitting these, and I had never made a pair, so I finally knit my blueberry waffles. And this is a pattern by, stand by, Sandy Turner. Beautiful pattern, super easy to memorize, and I knit it out of some more hand-dyed yarn. I don't know where I get all this hand-dyed yarn. My hand-dyed yarn. And look how even it is. I was like super impressed, because usually you get, you know, there's a couple extra speckles, but on the whole, it's pretty even. Yeah, so I love these socks. They fit really great, so I'll probably make some more. My Midas hat. If you guys watched my first episode, you would have seen the Midas hat because I was wearing it. And this is knit out of some String Theory hand-dyed yarn that I purchased when I was in New Orleans with my mom in 2012 or 2013. I can't remember. But I bought this because it's purple. I'm not a huge purple fan, but we wanted some yarn that was kind of reminiscent of Mardi Gras. And I think the colors are gold, green, and purple. So I got a purple yarn and I was had a ton. I finished it. I knit it this year when I was traveling. I was on my way to Uganda, and I know it's hot in Uganda, and I needed to bring some more wintry items because my cousin Luke and I were then going to Amsterdam, Prague, Vienna, and we did a little toot up to Auschwitz to see that. And it was cold in Europe in January, February, beginning of February. So what I did is I packed 2 items to knit while I was in transit, because I always want to knit. So I ended up knitting while we were in transit to Uganda. While we were in Uganda, all the buses and vans and all that stuff, and I ended up having a hat and a cowl. I made the sockhead cowl, and I had that for our wintry Europe stuff. So I knit it while I was in transit. I thought that was genius. Knit the wintry items while you're traveling so you have them when you're in wintry weather. So it worked out really great. The next one is the Big Star Shawl, and that's by Julia Billings. It's made out of some super deep stash, some Briggs & Little Sport that I bought. Sheesh. I started going to the Kitchener-Waterloo Knitters Fair in 2006. So I bought that stuff kind of maybe 2008, 2009. And it had been sitting in my stash for that long. And finally, because we used to get them really cheap, I ended up having a ton of skeins of this. So I will not be able to show you this monstrosity. It's literally ginormous. And it's got all the fringe. I should have blocked it with the fringe on, because my fringe is kind of curly. So, okay, so we got one tip over here. And then you have this nice lace pattern. Whoop. And then you have the middle. Whoop. It's heavy, but it's lovely and huge. It's so fun to cozy up on the couch with this piece. Yeah, it's not soft, it's Briggs and Little, but it's, that yarn was perfect for this shawl. And I was motivated to make this shawl when I watched The Gentle Knitter. She's Nicole, she's from Ottawa, so like super close to me. And she had made this out of Briggs and Little. And I was like, oh, I have some of that in my stash. I'm gonna make that shawl. It's beautiful, number one, and I have the yarn, number two. So it was a marriage made in heaven. The last make for 2019, well, it wasn't my last make, but it was my last on my list, was my Weekender sweater by Andrea Mowry. And I used Barrett Woolco Wisconsin woolen spun. And that yarn actually was the Veronica sweater that I made a couple years ago that I just never wore because I just didn't like the way it fit. And I never wore it, so I ripped it all out and I made the Weekender sweater. And here it is. Okay, most of the time I can't tell what side is front and what side is back because it's the same on both sides. I can just tell because it's got this split hem down here. So I really love this sweater. I love the color of this sweater. I do not love how it hits me right in the throat here, because there's no throat shaping. And there's a little spot, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Oh, I can see it right here, because when I knit my Veronica, I was split splicing my yarn. So I would like felt it together with my saliva, and that ended up right in the front. I still wear it, but it's there. I know it's there and it bothers me, but I still wear it. So that is the last item that was on my list for 2019, and all but two were from stash. So that is the goal again this year. I'm trying to think. I will make a separate video about my 2020 and the yarn. Maybe some stories, who knows. But for now, I think this video is long enough. I'm gonna have fun trying to upload it to YouTube. It's gonna take like 3 days, because it literally took like 12 hours to load up my 15-minute video last time. And I couldn't upload it from my phone. I had to figure out how to get it onto my computer, but I couldn't airdrop it. I don't know. Technology sometimes drives me insane. So I had a little portable, I got it when I went to Thailand and Cambodia. It was like it's a USB that you plug into your phone, and it's got a little memory to it so you can download your pictures in case you lose your phone or drop it in the water or something, an elephant eats it or something. So I had that. So I loaded the video, my last episode, onto that stick, put it on my computer. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and I will see you guys again soon with my 2020 Make Nines. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and if you're a maker, go make something.